You know what is the day today? Yes, today is the day for the Gacha Revenue, and this Gacha Revenue chart has already been published by our censorship towers. They are actually doing it for a long time. Each and every month of their first day, they always release the previous month of a Gacha Revenue. And when these types of Gacha Revenue chart actually drop, it kind of like get a controversy, especially for certain groups. They always go throat against each other to say that our games is doing better since your games doesn't even make that much of money for a particular single month. The number that you are going to see for this chart is not going to be the actual number. They always take this number from the Play Store and some this like a App Store, and it is always going to be the mobile revenue, not the PC revenue. For this 2026, after like a Genshin Impact release, there are so many other gacha game who actually does have a dual platform, such as the consoles, PC, and also Steam, some Epic stores and mobile platform as well as. So since they do have a multiple platforms, having the different revenue on the other platforms is not going to be published by yourself. So the only thing they do have the access, which is going to be the mobile revenue from the App Store and also the Google Play Stores. Those kind of things they always take it and also multiply with some certain constant value and give us a rough estimation number. And for this rough estimation number, we are going to see that how this gacha game is actually doing from the previous month, is it good or not. Since the PC platform and console and some other platforms such as the Steam and Epic Store, those kind of number cannot be shared by ours, since we are not even an investor. It is kind of like a top secret for each and every other gacha company games. There are so many other games who is not even doing perfectly fine into the mobile version, since some other gacha games, especially since recent gacha games does not even have that much of a caliber to handle in a mobile versions if you don't even have a good device. If you do have a moderate or you can say the low end PC device, you can even handle that game perfectly without having any kind of problem. Anyway, that's all for this like a gacha chart of explanation. So don't take it seriously, take it as a grain of salt and kind of like a fun and chill. So in here there is a total of 50 numbers of games. I'm not going to cover each and every all of those things. I'm going to cover which I do have an idea and what is actually going on into a certain gacha games. So without further ado, let's see. So for our 50 list, which is going to be the Brown Dust 2, I already know that for the Brown Dust 2, it is kind of like a borderline to Blu-ray film. I'm not going to mention the name because it could be kind of like a guideline breaking for the YouTube policy. So Brown Dust 2, it is way too much seductive and also way too much 18 plus content that it does not even consider as a game. People who actually live stream the Brown Dust 2, they also feared about the live stream since the seductivity and also since the 18 plus content of a Brown Dust 2 is so much high that it might be age restricted, and also your video might be a yellow dollar sign, which is no kind of like a revenue are going to be generated from that particular video. So that is the reason Brown Dust 2 is somewhat of having a problem, and there's somewhat of a censoring some other characters to make it somewhat like a universal to other content creators who really wanted to live stream this game. I already know some other YouTubers who are also facing this kind of issue for this like a too much of a 18 plus content. And currently Brown Dust 2 is somewhat of a having a hard time to from the previous month. As you can see that in their first month, in like a previous month, which is a June month, they generate like a $5 million, but in this like a July month, they already generate a 2.8 million, which is not even that bad, but compared to the previous month, it is kind of like a bad one. For the Blue Archive, damn, this Blue Archive having a hard time into the current situation because they are having a drama between their PT system. Yes, Blue Archive is following the basic of a Japanese PT system, which is a 200 spark system. When you are going to reach the 200, you will actually have a chance to get any of those like a character, whatever the banner is actually running that type. You are not going to obligated to see a random characters actually pulling for your side, and also there is a no 50 system, so you might even have a multiple character in those like a between of a 200 pools. In this Blue Archive new patches, they are trying to implement a new system, which is a PT system, just like the Genshin Impact and other things, but this PT system are going to be consist of a 190 pools. So when you are going to reach the 190 pools, you are going to lose the 50, so you have to do another 190 pools, which is kind of like a huge amount of bad things, and it is a way too much predatory practice, which might be lead you to almost like a 480 pools, which is not even good things in the first place. You know what I'm trying to say here, and that kind of like a controversy actually hampering the games for the both side, JP and also global side as well as, and for that reason the revenue is way too much than lower, and Blue Archive has not even released that much of powerful character, which is somewhat of a increase their revenue from their previous month. Okay, for our 48 number list, which is going to be the Bleach Soul Resurrect. Yes, I am a kind of like a not even a regular player, you can consider me as a weekly player for this game. I do love Bleach as an anime series, and when that anime having their own season and also sounds like a new things are going on, that anime must have increasing revenue from the previous one, and currently it is also having a new season which is kind of like a final season for the Bleach. If you haven't even checked it out, you can totally check it out by going through season 1 and also 2. Season 1 is kind of like a boring one, but when you are going to reach to a season 2, which is the new animation style, not even the old style, so you are going to be blessed with lots of actions and also lots of juicy stories. Anyway, they also increased not even that much, kind of like a small margin amount of much from the previous one, which is going to be the 2.7 million to 2.9 million. Of course, good for them, since this game does not even allow you to have a 50-80 system, which is kind of like a normalized things that the each and every other gacha games after Genshin Impact has already been adding to their system. But NT is kind of like a different one. Anyway, let's move on to our next game, which is going to be the Trickle Revive. Oh my god, they just totally lost from kind of like a 20% from their previous one. In their previous one, which was generated by 5.1 million, and currently they are generating almost like a 3 millions. I guess there was not even that much of popular characters actually going on. Trickle Revive is similar to a Nikkei systems. There is some character which is a pilgrim, very hard to get, and rate is also compared to lower some standard 5-star characters. So whenever a pilgrim's rarity types of character are going to be released in a Trickle Revive, you are going to see a huge amount of revenue boost in that time. So let's move on to our next game, which is going to be the 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. I have no idea how this game is still alive and also breathing at the same time. As you already know that 7 Deadly Sins was a phenomenon in 2014 or 2018, since in that time shonen was not even that much of a flourished genre. Of course, One Piece and also Naruto was kind of like a ruling the throne of this like a shonen genre, but 7 Deadly Sins once some kind of like a fresh things into the table. People are actually liking it, especially the studio behind was the A1 studio. They were killing it by a good amount of action sequence, but after some time later, when the studio was changed and also studio was not even live up to the hype or live up to the expectation, it doesn't even age that much. People are actually lost the interest. But after the release of this game in 2020, which was an Netmarble most atrocious company ever, this game even to this day generating the million by million each and every time. Whenever they're actually having a collab and also anniversary, it will actually goes up to 10 to 12 million and also 20 billion, which is a good thing since the IP is not even a popular, and also good thing for a 6 years old game. Okay, let's move to our next game, which is going to be the GFL 2. Oh my god, they also increased, but not even increased from the previous month. Of course, I guess they are not even having that much of a powerful character going on, especially not even an anniversary going on. There are also going to be anniversary happening in November month, since the time that the games was actually released in a global version. I guess in that time GFL 2 going to have her huge amount of revenue boost. Okay, let's move to our next one. Next point is going to be the Reverse 1999, which is totally goes up to a 31 position and also somewhat of a increased revenue from the previous month. Of course, it was tend to happen since they already rerunning their most awaited character, which is the Atomic twin girl. You know what I'm trying to say, her most kind of like a seductive robot. So if you don't even have those character in your game, I guess this is the best time to pick them up, since those character can even have a high meta value, and having those character you might even have a easier time to clear the end game and also kind of like mid games. But in late games you have to get the tier 0 character, since Reverse 1999 each and every new character are going to be the better than the previous character. So of course this collab character, which is the Atomic twin sister, is not even going to be up to the level where they were actually belong when they actually having the debut banner in the previous months. Okay, let's move to our next game, which is going to be the Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. Oh my god, this game, Dragon Ball Z is never dying franchise. It was Dragon Ball Z as a series, which was the sequel of a Dragon Ball, already ended like almost like 30 years ago. Even to this day, this game is totally slapping hard. Dokkan Battle, almost considering as an 11 years old game, because this game was released around like 2015 or like 2014. I don't know what's the time again, but it could be around those times. And whenever they actually release some also popular characters, especially Goku's multiple of a clone version, whatever the version it is, with their new techniques or their new moves, not actually new moves, all the moves are actually same, because the creator has already died. Rest in peace to Akira Toriyama. That guy was the actually legend. If he didn't even create the Dragon Ball Z, I guess you might not even see the One Piece and also some other shonen animes. Of course, this anime IP, or like as I already mentioned before, never dying anime IP. This will be long lived compared to any other anime IP that you have ever seen in your life. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which is going to be the Arknight Enfield. Oh my god, this game cannot even reach the double digit for the revenue chart. From the previous month it was like a 9.5 million. Currently it is decreased way too much low, but it is similar to the previous one considering as a same one. I don't know what is actually holding them to making a revenue, because their previous predecessor, which is the Arknight, not even Arknight Enfield, that game is actually doing better than this one. I already heard from the people who actually play the Arknights since the day one in 2019 or 2020. I don't know what's the time that game was released. That game is actually way too much active friendly. What the Arknights and Fields actually try to introduce us, especially the 120 pools and the pool currency that you are going to get from this Arknights is not even an easy one. If you are a LARPer or a weekly player, or you can say someone's like a tourist, then I guess you might not even able to play this game and also try to start this game getting a huge amount of rewards, pull that character. It is not going to be happen for the Arknight and Field. You have to play this game regularly as a regular basis, otherwise you might not even have a chance to get the rewards what the game is actually providing to you. So you know what I'm trying to say here. Okay, I don't know when this game is actually going to beat sounds like a top big juggernaut. People are considering this is the like a top big 4 alongside with the Wutheringers, but it is not even reaching the 10 million, and 10 million is kind of like a dream for these guys. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which is going to be Love and Deep Space, a BL game and also kind of like a dog shit game to the point. And the reason that game is actually lowered down from the previous one is so much. Of course, it is also facing the similar issue for the Infinity Nikki, you know what I'm trying to say here, kind of like a gacha costume game. That game is totally changed their whole over gacha system and also whole over gameplay system. Just because of whose idea was that, I don't know, but this Love and Deep Space, which is actually giving the hard time for the Genshin Impact and also some of the other big juggernaut games such as the Wutheringers to make the top tier position, and this game is totally sitting around 16 number. This game always, if I just give you other history of the Gacha Revenue chart, this game always going to be seated around like a number 1 position or number 2 position. And for that reason, since the game has been a total of a change, scratch to bottom, I guess the player who actually play this game, especially most of them are female, they are not even playing it, and also somewhat of a giving them 1 star. You know how the gacha community has been working on since the day one. Okay, let's move to the next game, which is going to be the Neverness to Everness. Oh my god. It is a good one, but I'm not saying that it is a bad one either. The thing is that this game was actually generated a revenue from the previous one, which is the 13 million. Currently they are generating a 10 million. Of course, this game is the one of this like a top mainstream game where it does not even have the 50-50 systems. We do have another game which is the Dual Night Abyss, but that Dual Night Abyss is not even similar to the Neverness to Everness. In Neverness to Everness, it is a gacha game, but you have to pull for it. At the end of the day, you are going to guarantee it if you just somehow reach the PT. But for the Dual Night Abyss, they were a gacha game, but they just totally removed the gacha just because of they try to make another clone version of the Warframe, which was already existed like 13 years ago. And having these types of things, I guess Dual Night Abyss having a hard time to keep up the players. That game won't be a long lived after few months later. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which is Arknights. Damn. To their lowest patch, they are actually generating a 15 million, where they are of the Arknight of a sequel, which is Arknight and Field, cannot even make the 10 millions to their worst patch. That's the difference, you know. For a 12th number, which is going to be the Uma Musume PT Derby, of course, this game is having their 1.5 anniversary and also releasing the scenario card. Scenario card is one of those cards. If you don't even have that, I guess you cannot even having an easy time to make your house up with the good amount of status. And when the scenario card is actually appear, this is one of those things. It is considered as a seasonal card. People are actually tend to pull that, or you can say the forced to pull that. Otherwise, you don't even have an easier time to make your horse powerful. And if the horse is not enough powerful, then I guess you cannot even do the Uma cups and also some other things, which is the final end game mode. Having to cope up with the rewards is going to be the hard one for you. Okay, let's move to our next game, which is going to be the FGO. For a game where the story is already ended and also having the almost like 1,000, or you can say the million types of a saver version, this game is actually doing pretty well. That's the game, you know that. Fate is not even known for their turn-based things. They are known for their visual novel and also anime, which was done by the same studio as the Demon Slayer, Ufotable. Before the Demon Slayer was hit, Fate was the signature project of the Ufotable, and currently Demon Slayer holding the position. Since Demon Slayer is very much easy to get, Fate is not even easy to get, so you know what I'm trying to say here. So let's move to our next game, which is the Wutheringers. Oh my god, they already lose a substantial amount of revenue from the previous month. In the previous month, which they already generate 34 million, and in the next one, which they already generate 26 million. This revenue chart is always also going to be change up, since our Amath, which is the Sentinel most popular character, already been running into this banner, and it hasn't been that long that the banner is actually having a good amount of time to see that how much of a revenue that this final banner are going to be generated. So we have to wait, but you know what, if this game is a 6 number, there is other games are always going to be the up towards. For our next game, which is going to be the Goddess of Nikke Victoria, of course the game will actually do fine since they are already running at 2 summer characters and also limited characters. Those limited of original Nikkei character are always going to be rerun each and every years whenever the summers are going to be happened. So if I just give you an example, current summer banners are not going to rerun anytime. It always going to rerun for the next summer character alongside with the new summer characters. And whenever a new limited characters appear for the Nikkei case, this game is actually doing pretty much fine. And this is the revenue and this is the result of it. Man, as a games which people already thought this game was actually going to be the US, that was the things. For our next game, which is going to be the Xenozone Zero. Oh my god. For a game which was actually hard to make a 10 million, just like the Artisan Field, they actually generate a revenue of a 35 million. It is not even take a whole month. It only took almost like 3 days. Yes, the second anniversary already happened around 29 of July. Since then and up until now, August 1st day of this month, this is the final revenue that they actually generate. Oh my god, I guess Remiel with her gooding and also some of her seductive design is actually making players to come back. That's not the main thing what the Xenozone Zero is actually happening. For the second anniversary, they already announced so many rewards, so many freebies, especially limited characters, which actually giving the players who already play some other mainstream gacha game, Wuthering Heights or Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, they are somewhat of showing the interest to play this game since the limited character they actually provided us is not even some of those like old dogshit characters. It is the character, some of those like a meta character they already giving us into this like a limited. Giving the limited character is not even the things, they already double it down with giving their actual signature weapon. So if you are just somehow lacking a signature weapon for a certain another limited characters, you can totally make up to with other character of a signature limited weapons. This is the things what the Xenozone are actually doing, and also some of these like free skins for the Forester characters and also some other map expansion. So many QQL updates are already been there. Xenozone Zero people who actually playing this game, they are actually eating good. For our next game, which is going to be the Honkai Star Rail, oh my god. For a game which doesn't even have anniversary, they are actually generating a 43 million, and it is also substantial increase for the previous month. And the reason might be is going to be the Fate Part 2 collab and also our Himeko Nova. You already know that the story they actually presented into this current version with the Himeko Nova and also how they actually finished it up. It is actually quite of an emotional one. People who actually thought that we are going to see another Honkai Impact 3rd of incident, but it didn't even happen since Honkai Star Rail is not even doing the thing what the Honkai Impact 3rd, which is kind of like a predecessor of the Honkai Star Rail, has already been done. So this is the simple things, and also this and also the Fate Part 2 collab, which is consist of a Win and also the Gilgamesh, most famous character for the Fate universe. That is the reason why people are actually coming back to this game, and also somewhat of a spending a good amount of chunk to get one of those characters. Okay, let's move on next game, or you can say the first game taking the ground position as it should be. Genshin Impact, one of those games which changes the genre of the gacha gaming. I really hate this game since the game doesn't even have a skip button. If they just somehow added the skip button, they could even fix almost like a 90 to 95% of the game's problem. And this kind of skip button actually holding some other new players to come off, but there is still so many new players actually coming off each and every day, since Genshin Impact is not even the Wuthering Heights types of dark games. It is kind of like a cozy or feel like a chill games. So if you really want to have a chill vibes and some other things, Genshin Impact will be your guy. And having a normal patch where not even that much of a popular character actually release, of course not popular, I guess they are going to rerun with the Mavuika and also the Colombina. Oh my god, those two characters are actually Archon and also famous character according to the lore wise, according to the meta value, and also their character designs. And this is the one of those like a reason why Genshin Impact is actually making a 55 million. Man, I guess Genshin never dies. I guess that's all for this like a video of this like a gacha chart. Don't take it seriously, as I already mentioned before on my intro. Take it as a grain of salt. If you like it, leave a like. If you do have any of this like question for the game's position and also from the previous month and also into this current month, whatever the changes already happened, you can totally let me know in the comment section, and also let your opinion as well as know into the comment section. Wait for the next video. Up until then, peace.